Hello, my name is Daniel Smith. I've decided to start making a video journal of my life and upload it here to YouTube. I've started to wonder what would happen after I'm gone. Would anyone miss me? The real me. My friends and I never really kept in touch after my freshman year of college. Zach is the only one I really keep in contact with nowadays. After the incident, I haven't really told anyone what really happened to me, not even him. Possibly by getting this story off my chest, after holding it in for 3 years, would help with the night terrors that keep happening. I've literally tried everything, so I'll do my best to explain. Daniel, it's time for dinner. Shit, gotta cut this one short. Daniel leaves the screen, forgetting to turn off the webcam, leaving it in total darkness. Seconds later, his face immediately pops back on screen. Fuck, how do you even cut off the recording? Is it this one? No, oh, There is a screen tear and the screen goes black. The voice heard calling Daniel is his mother. Alright, so I intended to finish my last vlog yesterday, but things came up. Anyways, let me try and explain how this all started. I graduated high school in May of 2010 with a full ride to East Carolina University pursuing computer science. Over half of my classes were online because I just felt it easier to learn that way. I ended up acing them all and then decided to learn how to code. See, all of my friends were into playing games as much as I was, so we all decided that we wanted to make it a career. All 4 of us dreamed about making a huge advancement in the gaming field, and boy did we. I was the brains of the operation. I had taken every coding class possible and even taught myself basic graphic design and video editing in my spare time. My main focus was on virtual reality. It has been pursued many times in the past, but no real breakthroughs had occurred. The Oculus Rift was still in development, so we had to make our own version. Zach was the tech genius. He could take anything and make something useful out of it. Him and Joey made this ungodly mechanism that went over your eyes, but it got the job done. So now it was my turn to figure out what game we would create. Horror games were my personal favorite. I loved getting scared and being in control, unlike horror movies. Regardless, I had to find out what scared people, so we all decided to do a survey on campus. We found the majority were afraid of heights, the darkness, or ghosts. Clowns, roller coasters, and other things were part of the lesser majority. But one thing stood out to me. Only about 2 people came up with the answer that spawned the idea of my game: the unknown. After some hard thinking, I realized that the unknown really frightened everyone. All the answers I got fell under that category. They don't know what lurks in the darkness, what a ghost is capable of doing to them, or even how to react during a roller coaster. When you aren't in control, you are scared. Knowing that something else can break through the barriers of your mind and take control of your feelings is the most disturbing thought you can have. Daniel stares blankly at the screen for about 40 seconds without moving. The video appears to be paused until we notice his chest moving as he breathes. He eventually blinks his eyes and looks away before he speaks again. I'll tell more later. I'm feeling kind of tired right now. The audio becomes distorted when Daniel says this. It seems to play over itself twice, with the second voice being a few octaves lower than his normal voice. Well, I've been sick the past few days, so I haven't really felt like doing this, but I have to finish my story. As I said before, the unknown was the main motive for the development of my game. I decided to make the prototype as a maze for the player to walk through. I had a creature chase after the player throughout the maze to add to the fear factor. Sounds would distort throughout, to give the player a sense of excitement. The farther you got in the maze, the more the sounds would disturb you. I took the idea from the popular game Slender, where you find pages in a dark forest. The more pages you find, the more noises would play, adding to the creepy ambience. Anything from a distant scream of a girl to the sound of your own heartbeat would be heard through the player's headphones. Well, after long hours of coding and researching, the prototype was ready. David was the first to test it. Daniel looks down for a few seconds and then looks back up before speaking again. You know, our minds are made to know everything we sense, no matter what it takes. But when the mind has used up all resources to explain certain pieces of information, all hell breaks loose. The body produces adrenaline, causing you to run faster, farther, sweat, and breathe heavier. Our minds use all the energy that is supposed to explain the piece of information and injects it into all our muscles to get away or face the abomination. I wanted to find that abomination. The video seems to slow down and the screen flickers back to different pieces of the clip. It shows Daniel saying the words fear, disturb, unknown, and scream before the video finally cuts to black. This log shows an empty room. Daniel is nowhere to be seen in the footage for the first few minutes. At about 7:06 a.m., the door to the room opens and the outline of a figure is standing facing the webcam. The figure stands, unmoving for 2 full hours, before the door slams shut by an unknown force. The screen then goes black. So I reviewed the footage from last night, and I'm not really sure what happened. I think my computer overheated, causing the recording software to fuck up. Anyways, the tests went pretty normal for a while. All 4 of us tried it out and loved it. David couldn't get enough of it. He was the first to suggest we get more people around campus to try it out and give us suggestions on how to improve it. We all agreed. After having dozens of kids try it out, I got to work on the suggestions. Everything from the sounds to the monster to the maze was all changed. The main concern was that people could memorize the layout of the maze after a few playthroughs. One boy suggested we play this game called Amnesia, The Dark Descent, to help come up with a more fear-inducing gameplay. I found the game and loved the impact. It's a first-person survival horror game where you have to navigate through a haunted castle, avoiding monsters and solving puzzles. The hook of this game is when you're in darkness too long, your character starts to hallucinate. Before using their idea, I decided to contact the developers before making my own knockoff. After explaining that I was in college, what my major was, and the project we had going, they approved. They actually wanted to send me a few of their discs and drives that had in-depth information on the game and how it was created. They just wanted most of the credit when and if it hit big. I skipped my classes on a Friday to get an early weekend start on the game and got pretty far into it. I swapped the maze idea for an abandoned insane asylum. Also, I took out the single monster idea and had multiple deranged beings come after you or pop up in windows. I decided to take out some of the audio and make it almost completely silent. I would still put in the distant scream and the heartbeat, but no other unknown background filler. Doors would creak, your footsteps, and when you were attacked, the beings screamed and clawed at you. These were the main audio pieces that were promoting the realistic feel to the game. Again, Daniel pauses and looks down. He continues to look down as he speaks again. Sometimes we forget the reason we feel fear. It's just there for one simple reason, to save us from the unknown. Daniel quickly looks back up to the screen. I'll get more into it tomorrow, because I have to go into work. The screen goes black after Daniel closes his laptop. The camera shows a dark room again. Daniel is still nowhere to be seen, although it is unknown how the laptop was reopened. The door to the room is shut, and there is no noise. At 7:06 p.m., the door to the room slowly opens, and the dark figure from before stands unmoving for 3 full minutes before entering the room. There is no movement of the figure suggesting that it is walking. It seems to glide across the floor and out of view of the camera. It isn't until 9:06 p.m. that the door shuts by an unknown force and the laptop closes, shutting off the webcam. Daniel's eyes are bloodshot and tired-looking. He rubs them and yawns before speaking. Well, I couldn't sleep for shit last night after work. I kept getting woken up by nightmares and I can't even remember what they were about. Anyways, I guess I'll just get today's log out of the way. By the time I finished up most of the new gameplay, we were all on Christmas break. I really needed the guys to help test out my new version, but everyone was busy or had plans. Well, what else would you do in this situation? I tried it myself. This is another point at which Daniel stares at the screen, except he wasn't just staring blankly, he seemed to be looking at something on his screen. What the? A horrified look appears on Daniel's face as he backs away from the screen and runs out of the room. 20 minutes pass before Daniel walks back into the room and sits down at the chair. His face is looking downward until he sits down. As he looks up at the screen, a screen tear happens for a split second. If you pause the video at the second Daniel looks up, his eyes are completely sunken in and black. When the video cuts back to normal, Daniel continues on with his story as if nothing happened. When I put the headgear and headphones on, it felt almost too real. I walked toward the asylum and looked up at it. It was raining, and there were flashes of lightning every few seconds. I walked inside and found that everything was completely silent. I had the heart monitor strapped to my chest, so my heartbeat was the only sound in my headphones. As I walked through the asylum, I noticed a few unbelievable changes. The rooms and hallways were in unnaturally smooth detail. I continued through the asylum, found the flashlight, keys to rooms, and the hidden objects I had placed throughout the game as a point system. The weirdest part was, the monsters hadn't appeared. I heard the screams, my footsteps, the general noises, nothing else. That was, until I got to the basement. See, I made a series of tunnels and rooms in the basement that were sort of identical to the main floor. It was darker, and I made the footsteps sound different. But there were other sounds as well. I would hear an extremely light scratching sound on the concrete walls if I would stand still. Sometimes I would hear low whispering right in my ear, and maniacal laughter far in the distance. This disturbed me. I made every fiber of this game and had no recollection of putting those in there. When I found most of the objects, I came to one final room. I also had no memory of making this either. It contained a tall wooden door with a giant lock on it, but no windows or even a handle. After constant searching, I found a black key that I had never seen before. I was still baffled at all of this, but I wanted to see this to the end. With no explanation of the key, I returned to the door and tried it. After a long wait in complete silence, I figured the game had crashed on me. Right before I removed the headgear, I heard a creaking sound. As I looked through the headgear once more, I found that the door was wide open. In the game, I made it so the flashlight would have a dwindling energy supply. One of the things you have to find are batteries scattered throughout the asylum. You can also find matches to help give you a short supply of light, until you can hopefully find some spare batteries. Well, I was fucking out of batteries, and I had 3 matches left. Daniel's face turns horrified, but when I struck the match, it just blew out as soon as they looked up at me. Oh God, the eyes. They were everywhere, dozens of eyes. As soon as the video hits 7:06 a.m., Daniel abruptly quiets and then starts sobbing and looks off screen to the right. I'm sorry, okay, I didn't know I would let it out. He made... The video turns black and ends. Daniel is seen standing in the middle of the room with his back turned to the screen. He's completely nude except for a bag covering his head. His arms are outstretched and he has 3 gashes on his back. A deep whispering sound is the only thing you hear from the video. Daniel stays silent, standing in this position until 11:59 p.m. The video ends at 12 a.m. the next morning. Upon further investigation of this clip, the audio was increased intensely. The deep voice seems to repeat the phrase, "he comes," throughout the video. Zach is the one in this log. He is silent for about 30 seconds. So, I heard that Daniel was making these video logs, and I just wanted to come and finalize them for him by telling everyone what happened. Daniel was found lying in his room here a couple of weeks ago. He was naked and cut up pretty bad. They took him to the hospital and found that the wounds were self-inflicted and that he had tried to kill himself. I haven't gone through these videos yet, but I know something has to be in here. I just wanted people to know that Daniel is in critical care. Zach pauses for a few seconds as he starts to tear up. They say that the wounds, they were so deep and the blood loss was so drastic that he won't survive. His body is rejecting all medication, and he isn't supposed to make it through the night. Zach sobs for a few minutes before continuing. Really, the hardest part about dealing with this is that David passed away as well. About 5 months ago, he dropped dead from a sudden brain aneurysm. We tried to contact Daniel, but we couldn't get in touch with him. I'm going to find out what happened to you, Daniel, I swear it. He shuts off the camera. Zach seems to be in a panic and rushing as he speaks. All right, so I watched all of his logs and something is fucked up. He never acted this way until he got into that game. I've tried to contact Joey, but he won't return my calls. The reason I'm here now is because Daniel was like a brother to me, and I'm not about to move on without knowing the truth. Something happened when he played that game, and I have to find out. I don't know what he saw or what he found, but I feel like it's connected to his death. I need to find it, and that headset. Zach gets up and rushes around the room. After 11 minutes, he finds the headset in the top of a closet and the game in a locked drawer. He seems to forget that the webcam is still on as we assume he starts up the game. He puts on the headset and headphones and immediately starts to scream. The webcam audio is muted, but Zach seems to be terrified and rips off the headset. As soon as he takes it off, the lights go out and the video cuts off. The room is barely visible through the darkness, and Zach isn't in sight. At 7:06 p.m., the door to the room slowly opens, revealing the silhouette of a young man in what seems to be a hospital gown. After about 30 seconds, the figure slowly walks over toward the bed as the room becomes flooded with light. Daniel is now visible, and he stands motionless facing the bed. As he leans over, bloodstains become visible on the back of his gown and grow larger as the minutes pass. On the bed, mangled to a point of almost no recognition, is Zach's body. The blue and white shirt is the only indication of him. Daniel starts laughing maniacally. His body starts to contort unnaturally. His bones start breaking. He leans back and walks on his hands and feet toward the screen. His eyes are pitch black, and his mouth in a devilish grin. He laughs for a few seconds before the deep voice erupts from his mouth and says only 2 words. He's here. I had just graduated high school and was planning to head off to college that fall. I'd done well enough in high school that I had a couple of different college scholarships at my disposal. However, not every school that I looked at was willing to give me a full ride. After much thought and delegation, I decided to attend the University of Wyoming. Why would I apply to such a college, you may ask? Well, for one thing, the college is in the middle of nowhere. Literally. When you drive there, all there is wide open plains without a town in sight. Truly, the college is its own town. I liked this aspect because it allowed me to put some distance between me and my parents, who lived at least 7 hours away. Not to mention that they also had the degree in mechanical engineering that I wanted. So that's where I went. My freshman year there was going better than I had expected. I was making new friends, doing well in my classes, and enjoying my newfound college freedom. I even got along with my roommate, which now that I look at it, is somewhat of a rarity. As fall break neared, I was actually looking forward to seeing my parents and sleeping in my own bed. However, nature decided that I didn't need to go home. The day before we were ready to leave, a bad snowstorm blew in, dropping several feet of snow. I called my parents and told them that I couldn't make it back home for break. As expected, they were disappointed, but were understanding. As we spent our time moaning and griping that we couldn't go home, some disturbed students decided to take advantage of our frozen incarceration. This consisted of building snow forts, throwing snowballs, and drawing obscenities on cars. However, I had no interest at all in going out into the thing that had crushed my chances of going home. In my frustration, I decided to barricade myself in my dorm room and game on my PC until my eyes fell out of my skull. I sat at my computer for hours and hours, playing 5 or 6 different games, switching between them periodically. I lost track of time. Was it 3 or 6 a.m.? What does it matter anyway? I thought to myself as I struggling to keep my eyes open. I went online to check my email before I went to bed. As the email homepage loaded up, the usual ads for weight loss tips and credit scores appeared into view. Finally, after what felt like hours, my email had loaded, no thanks to the school's crappy internet. As I scrolled through my heavily cluttered inbox, I sadly didn't see any of emails from my parents. I then proceeded to delete at least some of the spam that was plaguing my email account. Then, I noticed an email from one of the online flash game sites that I frequented. It read, "Dear Dan Lotus, this is our list of this month's most played games. 1. Carbon Copy 2, Boxhead 3, More Rooms 4, Thing Arena. From puzzlevoid.net, I had played almost every game that site had to offer, but never Carbon Copy. If this game was number 1 on the list, how have I never heard of it? I could hear my bed softly calling my name, but curiosity had gotten the best of me. I clicked on the game link to see what this Carbon Copy was about. A new tab opened and blackness filled the screen. The usual puzzlevoid.net logo appeared, but no game had loaded. I swear the internet at this school is retarded. I quickly hit the refresh button on the browser to reload the page, but nothing changed. The screen appeared exactly the same. Game must be down or something. Suddenly a red button appeared with text under it. Proceed to game site with apprehension. I clicked the button. I usually stayed away from games that make you go to an external link. They always seem sketchy, and we're bound to give you virus or something. But for the game to be that popular, the site must not be that bad. To my relief, the site was well designed and looked like it was professionally done. The game loaded, and the title slowly came into focus: Carbon Copy Play. Load level options. I pressed play and watched as the title screen faded away and a new field came into view. There was a series of empty text boxes with words beside them. It was a personal information field. Why the hell does a simple flash game need an information field? I was way too tired to care about the consequences of giving out one's personal information at that point. I just wanted to play the stupid game. I quickly filled out the field without giving it much thought and pressed the submit button. A white field appeared and a little black pixelated stick figure materialized in the lower left corner of the screen. Instructions came on the screen. To win, use the left and right arrow keys to control him and dodge the falling rocks. When a rock is going to crush him, press spacebar. This will pause the game and copy him to a safe spot. You can only copy him 4 times. Why does the game keep calling the stick figure him? Was the developer really that lazy? The game started out pretty slow. I easily dodged the falling rocks with a click of the arrow keys. After a short time, the game paused and displayed level 2 in the upper right-hand corner. The rocks now started to fall at a faster rate. This cycle continued until level 6. The rocks started to fall at an incredible speed. To survive, I had to copy him 3 times just to get through the level. However, I found out that you are penalized for copying him, which the instructions neglected to tell me. Every time you copy him, he becomes lighter in color. So by the 3rd copy, he was almost invisible. Level 7 loaded and I was ready to go, but nothing happened. The rocks did not fall. A few seconds passed and still nothing happened. Did the game freeze? Did I somehow win? Suddenly, all the rocks fell at the same time, giving no way to escape. The entire monitor screen went black for a few brief moments. A dark and twisted red face made of very fine pixels appeared on the screen. The face looked emaciated and rotting, bits of flesh falling off showing the exposed bone beneath. Its eyes were like doll eyes, cold and lifeless. The mouth opened, revealing decayed and missing teeth. The head began to speak in a low, blood-curdling voice. "You killed him. You killed him. You killed him. You killed him. You killed him." Each time the voice grew louder and louder. A deafening electronic beep emanated from the PC tower, and everything stopped. The voice stopped. The head stopped. Frozen on the screen, the eyes stared at me, lifeless and still as though it peering into my soul. I threw my chair to the ground and ran as fast as I could out of my dorm and into the snow. I could still hear that chilling voice in my head saying that line over and over again. "You killed him. You killed him. You killed him." The image of that face will forever be etched in my memory. A couple of hours had passed and I had finally started to come back to reality. Why would someone create something like that? Was it meant to a prank like those scary maze games? As I walked back to the dorm, I was hoping and praying that my computer had been shut off or destroyed. I finally got the door of my dorm room and stopped. I heard the voice of my roommate and his friend. The computer must be off, right? I walked into the room and tried to act calm, but my roommate knew something was wrong. He told me that he saw me run out into the snow and just sit there for hours. I explained to him what had happened, the game, the face, everything. He then proceeded to tell me that I was full of it, and that such a thing could not have happened. A couple of weeks passed. I tried to forget about what had happened that day. I just couldn't, not matter how I tried to suppress it. In my dreams, I would relive the nightmare over and over again. I would wake up in a cold sweat, scared out of my mind. My grades started to slip, and my social life became non-existent. I hadn't used my desktop since the incident, and had resorted to using the computers in the school library. After 3 weeks, I had had enough. I had my roommate boot up my desktop and see if there were any abnormalities. He came to me with a puzzled look and told me that my computer was fine. Cautiously, I sat down at my desktop and opened the web browser and went through my history. I scrolled to the date that it happened and expanded the file, but the web page wasn't there. I know that I hadn't deleted or wiped my history. How on earth could it not be there? So I did the stupidest thing I could think of and tried to find the game again. I went to my email and looked for the update I'd received from puzzlevoid.net, but that too was missing. What the hell is going on? Was I going crazy? Did I just make it up? No, I know what I saw and it was real. I googled the name carbon copy over and over, but didn't find anything relating to a game. It couldn't have just disappeared. It existed and must still be out there. I had to prove to someone that I wasn't a basket case, that something really did happen. Another week went by just like the others had. I gave up my search for carbon copy and felt my life starting to return to normal. I compartmentalized the event in my mind and promised myself to never let it come up again. That night I went with my roommate and his girlfriend for pizza, and I actually enjoyed myself. I felt like a weight had fallen off my chest and that I was finally free. I went back to my dorm to study for a calculus test that I had the next day. It was around 11:30 that my cell phone beeped. I ignored it and continued studying. Again my phone beeped. Still I did not look at it, and if it was something important they would have just called me. I assumed that it was just my friend asking me to give him my notes. 30 minutes had passed. Nothing else mattered in the world except my calculus book. I knew the definitions and everything. I was going to ace this. The phone beeped not once, but 5 times in succession. I picked up my cell phone and looked at the LCD readout on the front. 7 new text messages, blocked number. I flipped it open and my heart stops in my chest. All 7 texts read, "You killed him." I threw the phone against the wall, snapping it in two. No, 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 no. What have I done to deserve this? What does this sick and twisted bastard want? I don't know what time I fell asleep that night, but it was not restful. I was awakened by the sound of someone knocking on our door. "Police, open up." I opened the door, still unsure of what was going on. He asked me if my name was Dan Lotus. I said yes, and he told me to come with him. He took me down to local police station and sat me in an interrogation room. He tells me that there has been a series of murders. 4 teens ranging from ages 14-17 went missing a week ago. Their bodies were discovered in an abandoned house. The cause of death was asphyxiation. Why was he telling me all this? Did it involve someone that I know? He then told me the reason why I had been brought in. When they were conducting the investigation and collecting evidence, they discovered a series of envelopes. Inside of them, they found what looked like some kind of diary. There was also an envelope that had a name and an address on them. It was my name and address, and inside was both my phone number and email address. Months passed by, but no progress was made in the case. They dropped me as a suspect because no evidence besides my address was found. That game ruined my life. Rumors and lies were spread about me, how I was a killer, a deranged psychopath. I had to move to a new town, a new college, and find a new name. I started over, trying to forget the past. From time to time, I still check the internet and the newspapers, hoping that he has been captured. To this day, police still look for him. Somewhere out there, carbon copy still exists. If you really believe in something, it can be yours. That's how we've been conditioned to think. Mostly, I suppose it's a coping mechanism to keep us from eating the rich. We all think we'll be rich someday if we just want it hard enough. How long has it been since there was a good old-fashioned culling of the wealthy elite? That probably wasn't a good way to start this blog post. I'm more than a little tired, but fuck it, I'm leaving it. Corruptus. That was the subject of an email I received before my ISP dropped me. My phone turned into a brick the same day. Hell, I think it was the same precise moment, though it's difficult to know for sure since I only tried it after my laptop couldn't connect. Corruptus. I'd never heard the word before, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure it is a word at all. It could be Latin. It sounds like Latin. I haven't been able to look it up, and this is the first time I'm getting on the web since my unexpected removal from the grid. I tried to sign on at the local library, by the way. My card was revoked. Unpaid late fees for books I'd never read, much less checked out. Mostly borderline fetish material and self-help books for various mental illnesses. The apparently quite detailed tome on weapons of mass destruction seemed to be of the most concern for the librarian. I hung around the library for maybe a half an hour until someone left a computer logged in and unguarded. When I went to check my email to tweet a complaint about what happened, those accounts were gone as well. Honestly, I was a pretty huge dumbass for expecting them to be there. It wasn't long before I noticed the computer's rightful user pointing me out at the front desk. I guess she wasn't a fan of the direct approach. I was out the door before anyone could cause a real fuss. It's been over 2 years since I left Mowgli's palace and never looked back. The original blog post has come and gone so much, across so many different sites, that I can barely even remember the first place I tried to host it. If I'd known how far this would go, I don't know if I would have been able to hack out that clumsy, flawed account of what happened. The pressure would have been too great, and I suppose there's a certain level of comfort in the idea no one will actually see or care about your work. It seems like a lot of sites removed the information, either upon direct request from Disney or on their own in fear of reprisal. I know a really popular YouTuber who pulled readings of my posts from his channel. The rumor was that someone threatened to sue him, some supposed author of the story. Bullshit. I know firsthand that he took it down in a bout of pants-shitting fear when he realized Disney's connection to his partner company. I tried to keep up my after-abandoned blog for a while. I don't know how many people out there saw my notes on Room Zero, Club 22 and so on. They're still around if you look, at least at the time of this writing. Yes, Club 22 exists. No, it's not a typo of Club 33. I later learned from the same contact that there's an 11 as well, and supposedly the debauchery only grows as the numbers get lower. I heard of a Club 00, but I can't confirm that as clearly as I can with the previous contact. I also don't know if it has any connection to the room of a similar name. Yes, the door probably said characters or cast members instead of mascots. I know, I hear you all. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure your memory is crystal clear in moments of abject terror, right? Overall, I'm glad that my words have spread so far and wide, but the downside is that so few of you are taking this seriously. I can't stress this enough. Treasure Island? Real. The Utiliders? Real. Just because you can't substantiate the rest doesn't mean it's a cool story. Instead of picking apart the inaccuracies and making games about how cool it would be to have been in my position, maybe people can start taking this seriously and digging into what's going on. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want this to be a rant. I want to stay focused and make sure I post exactly what I wanted to make public. All of the stress, the stalkers, the phone calls, the broken windows. I know that's all supposed to keep me off track. They want me confused, scared, and most of all, they want me quiet. There's a team of men and women in suits that I've seen at random times, here and there. I call them the focus group, because they pop up with clipboards and pens, taking notes about everything I do. They all have the same outfits, the same thick-rimmed nerd glasses, the same red pens that just scream, "We're judging you." The first time I noticed them, they were following me through the mall. I looped and turned, trying to be sure they were following me. And there they were, every step of the way. Days later, I spotted them again in the laundromat window across from my new apartment. I chased one down once, the tubbiest one. They stayed silent through the entire chase, and even the scuffle that ensued. When I wrenched the clipboard from his hand, I only found page after page of off-kilter, random gibberish coupled with crude Mickey silhouettes, all in the same red ink. I know it sounds insane to say that a group of men and women in black are following me and taking nonsense notes, but I think that's the point. I think the idea is that it should drive me insane, and if it doesn't, you'll still think I'm crazy just for saying it. It's a no-win situation. I will forever regret that trip to Emerald Isle, but on the other hand, I'll always be grateful to the people who have come forward, anonymously, to share their experiences with me. Whoever mailed me the suggestion box from the resort is basically my hero at this point. To read what I'd written about the place and still brave the journey, wow. I can't imagine how that felt. Whoever you may be, you even left the original corroded lock in the box, so I'd know it was legit. To do all of that without even taking a look inside for yourself must have been really hard. Thank you. If you haven't noticed, I'm treating this post a lot like my final installment. There's a reason for that. I don't know how long I can keep subverting Disney's attempts at silencing me before some sort of final action is taken. I have no doubt that somewhere at this very moment, someone is using my identity to commit a crime that would discredit me. That, or the men in white jackets are about to show me a lovely little padded cell. I don't know what's going to come of this, and that's the worst part, I suppose. All I know is that it's coming. So what is Corruptus? Well, as I mentioned, it was the title of an email I received, one that was presumably deleted along with my account. It was blank and seemed to exist for the sole purpose of placing an attached text document in my hands. Too bad for the powers that be. I had already printed it the moment I saw it. Not much they can do to reverse that, can they? I should have mentioned, remember that library? I used their copier to run off a few thousand duplicates of that letter. A few hundred are stapled in random places. A few hundred were passed out to random people. And the rest? Let's leave those as a little surprise. Have fun trying to stifle that, you horrible mouse fuckers. Without any more rambling, here's the letter, word for word. It arrived from a source whose email address I won't disclose, though I assume it's an untraceable dummy account anyway. Summation of Corruptus incidents for January 2015 for office use only. This message contains information that may be confidential or proprietary, or protected by the attorney-client privilege or work product doctrine, intended solely for the use of the addressee, as named above. Any review, disclosure, distribution, copying or use of the information by others is strictly prohibited. If you have received this message in error or without authorization, please advise the sender by immediate reply and delete the original message. All emails sent to this address will be received by the Disney corporate email system and is subject to archiving and review by someone other than the recipient. Violation of this disclaimer as written will result in prosecution. Please refer to official guidelines with relation to known and unconfirmed incident reports. Respect regulation as per ongoing and/or finalized designations. Known Corruptus incidents up to and including January 2015. Treasure Island. Extreme agitation, inappropriate activity within vulture population. Mild to moderate agitation, inappropriate human activity. Resolved Corruptus. Unidentified avian species abandoned. Final. Disney's Pop Century Resort. Misplaced and mobile objects. Chronological displacement anachronism. Unresolved Corruptus. Wandering entity pending. Disney's River County. Microorganism infestation. Unresolved Corruptus. Clear Man, aka See-Through Man, aka Friendly John. Abandoned. Final. Imageworks, the What If Labs. Second floor. Multiple missing persons reports regarding Dreamfinder's School of Drama. Pinscreen fatality. Vibrating mirror sickness. Unresolved Corruptus. Wily Wizard installation abandoned. Final. Mowgli's Palace. Auditory hallucination and/or projection. Misplaced and mobile objects. Moderate to severe agitation, inappropriate human activity. Unresolved Corruptus. Inverted character abandoned. Final. The New Global Neighborhood. Resolved Corruptus. Fiber optic worm. NGNC1. Resolved Corruptus. Digital Howl. NGNC2. Resolved. Repurposed. Room 0. Sudden onset mass hysteria. Auditory hallucination and/or projection. Unresolved Corruptus. Unknown contained. Final. Please note, Nara Dreamland is not an officially licensed Disney park, and no information or resources are to be shared with any responsible for containing its residents. A complete list of suspected Corruptus incidents and reports may be available. It took a few readings before I could get my head around this. Essentially, if the attached file was to be believed, then the events I'd experienced were not part of an isolated incident. The events within Room 0, the Gascots, they seem like part of a much larger problem. What is Corruptus? Corruption? I mean, I don't need to run Google Translate for that, even if I felt like I could take a break from writing, without the risk of someone finding and disconnecting me at any moment. Corruption of what? Dreams, ideas, desires. I've never been a religious man, but I was dragged to Sunday school more than enough times to know about golden calves. False gods created by man, icons, graven images, characters, mascots. If you believe in the Bible at all, and I'm not sure I do, especially not after what I've seen, then maybe God wasn't angry because people worshipped other things. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe if enough people believe in something hard enough, there's a chance it will come to be. Since we're naturally flawed beings, that means there's a very good chance such a thing would become corrupted. If you think about it, Disney's animated films have always had one overriding message. Clap your hands and believe hard enough, and Tinkerbell will live. When you wish upon a star, anything your heart desires. People like to say Disney has some connection to Satanism, but I never bought into that. I still don't. I think they've been trying to create that golden calf, a god idol that everyone believes in, one that everyone loves. It's almost as if any dream or idea that is shared by enough human hearts and minds has a real chance of being born into the world. The creatures, if any exist beyond what I saw with my own eyes, I think they're the deformed half-starts. Random manifestations of some dark, unquantifiable non-life that seeped into our state of being. They're mistakes of reality, cosmic abortions, the corrupted. Did everyone in Emerald Isle harbor such a negative impression of Mowgli's palace? How potent was the fear of nuclear war on the day Room Zero became full? If you want to find Gascots and mystery voices, does that search bring about the very thing you're looking for? How many children have been disappointed, confused, or scarred for life when they saw Mickey without his head? These are questions I'm never going to be able to answer. I don't know if anyone can. Speaking personally, this will probably be the last time I talk to you about Disney and everything I've learned about them. I'm truly sorry for that, especially since there's so much more I could say. Unconfirmed rumors, documents and items I received that now seem to be gone forever. I thought they were just trying to contain that Mickey costume. I thought that's why they went out of their way to keep the public in the dark about so much, why they coerced and bullied to get their way. Now I realize I was wrong. It was this all along. They didn't want anything like this getting out. I wish you all good luck, and I know I need the same from you. Thank you. If you liked the video, please leave a comment about the story you liked, and you should watch this video. 3 actually horrifying true horror stories. Click here to get the full story.